good?
Yep.
All right. I'm back on the mic, but with my boy Eric instead of Tito, who's taking a bit of a snack break, is what we're saying he's doing. But he's right here with us with the graphics. We looking at Brian Youm versus Abdul Barrie, coming at top 4 of the Chantilly, Virginia mid-season showdown. Coming at you with a team of Salamence, Azumarill, Tapu Koko, Amoonguss, Heatran, Aegislash versus Mandibuzz, a blast from the past, Kartana, Landorus T, Scrafty, Tapu Fini, and Zard Y.
It's actually Zardax.
Zard of some kind.
A non-specified Charizard.
I apologize for that slip of the tongue. It's habit. We look at Brian's team and see that he seems to spend a lot of resources trying to set up that Azumarill. Amoonguss with the Rage Powder, Salamence with the Intimidate, other Pokemon doing other Pokemon things, whereas on Abdul's team, I'm not really sure what he's trying to do. I think he's just using stats and putting them in places and taking other Pokemon out, which is Pokemon at its finest, so I have no problems with that whatsoever.
Yeah, I'd say from Abdul's side that Mandibuzz is probably going to be a big tool for him here because he has probably the potential for Amoonguss.
And it has Overcoat regardless. So
yeah, so it can't get scored anyway.
Or Rage Powder. It ignores Rage Powder, so let's say it has Foul Play, and Azumarill sets it to +6. Now, while Azumarill has the Fairy typing to resist the Dark moves, it'll still probably get 2 KO'd by +6 Stab Foul Play.
Yeah, it's a chance that it'll either KO or become very close to KOing. But another thing I was going to say, Kartana is probably going to be really good in this match for Abdul if he can preserve it, because like Mandibuzz, it can also ignore Rage Powder, but for a different reason, because it's a Grass type, and they can get that super effective Leaf Blade on the Azumarill. But we're going to get right into the game
I
here.
think that's a very interesting way that Abdul puts it. It's like Amoonguss has been killing everybody recently, and I said I'm going to pretend he doesn't exist, but he brings in the Mandibuzz Tapu Fini versus Brian's lead of Tapu Koko Salamence, which both of which this is starting to look like VGC 17 right now.
Yeah, it's a little throwback.
Yeah. Well, 1 second, everybody. We are experiencing a minor. All right, cool.
All right.
So we back.
Just gotta get those icons.
Yeah. No, so Tapu Koko is in next to the Salamence versus the Mandibuzz Tapu Fini. I don't think either of them have locked in a move yet. Mandibuzz is threatened pretty heavily by both Tapu Koko, well, by the Tapu Koko, and so is the Tapu Fini. So it seems like Brian's in the driver's seat. That being said, the Salamence is very threatened by the Mandibuzz. We see Tapu Fini switch out on a normal side of the field for his Landorus to take out part of Salamance's attack, and it seems as if Mandibuzz is not afraid of Tapu Koko in misty terrain.
Yeah, I would almost say this. I wouldn't want to say this Tailwind is free for Mandibuzz, but the Misty Seed is definitely definitely gonna help him take electric attacks from Tapu Koko.
But if it eats, for example, an Electrum Z and then plus a
I was about to say, frustration plus an Electrum Z might be
like that very much.
But that might be a critical. No, it's not a critical hit. Wow. Okay.
It just pressed
I don't know my Mandibuzz calcs. Oh,
yeah,
that was a crit.
No, well, I mean, that's pretty assuredly specs if it took that T-Bolt out of terrain and if it took it through the seed for that much damage. The frustration from Brian going straight into that Mandibuzz probably wasn't going to knock it out without the crit, so that's not great news for Abdul. But he brings in the Kartana, pretty heavily threatened by the Tapu Koko if it is choice spec based off that damage.
Oh yeah.
And it can't really do much to the Salamence.
Yeah.
So while Abdul does have pressure on the field with the Landorus against the Tapu Koko, Kartana's taking a lot of damage from everything on the field.
Yeah. Landorus is a pretty good partner here just because it has the Earthquake pressure.
Right.
But he's going to bring an Aegislash here. Aegislash at risk of taking a Earthquake here, but he's just going to go for a Rock Slide. Switch out. They do some decent damage to Salamence there.
It's not going to do an extraordinary amount, but it does
get
the flinch, which is what Lando does. Lando brings down the heat. Yeah. Oh,
the Z Tailwind coming out from Kartana, so it's going to say it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
Intimidates or anything. Like this thing's just going to start clicking Leaf Blade and just start critting everything.
The interesting thing with regards to that, though, is Kartana has 100% crit chance with the Leaf Blade right now because Flyanium Tailwind will boost its crit by 2 stages. Kart's Leaf Blade is already 1 stage up. It's 100% crit. But Aegislash doesn't care that much, and Salamence quad resists.
None of these Pokemon care. got the Z Tailwind, but like it's not really gonna be doing a lot. He's just gonna go for Protect here.
Yeah, so it protects. Lando's probably gonna Rock Slide again.
Yeah.
Not doing really anything. Slash getting a crit on the Salamence, I think. No, it was a crit. Salamence. And another flinch.
So there we go.
So that's how Abdul planned to go through the Salamence, prevent it from moving, and now it's in Leaf Blade range for the Kartana with a critical hit, but Shadow Ball from Aegislash might take out the Kartana from full depending on how it's trained. So unless Lander's T can prevent the Aegislash from moving as well, it seems like Abdul's going to have a difficult time dealing with the Aegislash with the Landorus locked into Rock Slide, which I think it's probably locked into considering what's been happening. We might see otherwise, but Rock Slide going through every turn is suspicious.
Yeah, this is going to be even a little bit more tricky for Abdul, especially if the Aegislash does reveal Wide Guard, but it looks like it's just going to go for King's Shield here. Kartana is able to pick up the knockout on Salamence, but Brian...
No, Salamence switched out.
Yeah, I was about to say. Salamence switched out into the Amoonguss, so pretty good switch there from Brian, but it looks like we're just... Oh no, this is Rock Slide.
Another Rock Slide.
And here's a Scarf.
Yeah, well, probably.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry, it's been going past...
Yeah, it's been going
I'm
before,
so sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been going past. It's been going past in the Kartana, or it's been going before the Kartana, so it's pretty much Scarf confirmed. Unless it's slow Kartana with Z Tailwind, which is seen sometime. I don't remember if it went faster than the Coco or not. Regardless, the way Brian looked at the opposing team, right? He saw Kartana's actually a threat.
Yeah.
But not if all of my Pokemon OHKO it or
just
quad resist it.
Yeah. I'm actually really surprised about the Amoonguss choice here. Amoonguss kind of seemed a little iffy, in my opinion, but, I mean, it's in a pretty good position here, because now it can start just throwing... Well, it can't throw out spores, considering, you know, Landorus is the only thing. Yeah, Lando, it can get spored, but Feeny switching in here, probably just going to prevent the spore going into it. Or we're just going to see the Ghostium Z from Aegislash here.
Which is probably going to target the Kartana.
Yeah, it'll do a lot of damage through Protect. Probably definitely not enough to KO, but it'll come very close.
Well, and if it goes into what was a Landorus, hoping to knock out the Lando, and hitting the top of Feeny for a substantial amount of damage, probably about to proc the Barrie. We look at the fact that Tapu Fini, like, I think that Brian brought Amoonguss for two reasons. One, the rest of his Pokemon get hit by Kartana too heavily.
Yeah.
And that's very scary for him to deal with. But two, it also just responds pretty strongly to the Tapu Fini, which is actually a pretty significant offensive threat against Brian's team. With the Heatran, with the Coco losing its terrain, with Salamence, with Azu, like, Tapu Fini actually does a lot to, especially if it's Calm Mind. So he wanted to be able to redirect, presumably, the Fairy-type moves and to eat up the Water-type ones. So I don't disagree with the Amoonguss, especially since it's helping him with the Kartana.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting pick, but like you said, it's going to be one that's probably going to be really good for Brian here, because if Tapu Fini does decide to start boosting, then it will definitely be able to redirect damage away from it. And Kartana just, like, I was thinking Kartana was going to be a bigger threat in this game, but it's just kind of sitting there. Like,
yeah, Brian responded to it well, realizing he had threats on his team to deal with it, knowing that he had substantial amounts of resist and an offensive Tapu Koko, which can probably kill it with a Choice Specs T-Bolt in terrain. Muddy Water comes through from the Tapu Fini after the Amoonguss eats the Leaf Blade from the Kartana. Yep. Amoonguss dodges it, but really doesn't matter in the long run. I think Brian is very substantially in the driver's seat, especially after that turn 1 crit into the Mandibuzz.
Yeah.
That really changed the tides here, because if Mandy, for example, got a Tailwind up, was able to roost, lost its flying typing to take very little damage from the Tapu Koko, live from the Salamence, threaten Aegislash and Salamence with foul plays, things of that nature, the game might be a bit different.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just noticed we have two forms of Tailwind on Abdul's team here, which is kind of... I think it's interesting considering his team comp, but yeah, I mean, Tapu Fini being asleep here is just, it's not really good for Abdul. Kartana's still kind of just sitting here, not really doing anything. You saw the crit from him on Amoonguss, did literally no damage.
Yeah, Kartana's not looking like it's enjoying the scenery on Brian's side of the field.
Yeah.
Tapu Fini's asleep, but it's really not going to do anything. Leaf Blade,
I am okay, but not enough.
I'm less concerned about the damage coming from the Kartana, more so that the Salamence on Brian's side of the field, or on the back, is probably going to deal with the Landorus just fine. Amoonguss will deal with the Tapu Fini just fine. Shadow Ball goes to the Kartana for the knockout.
Easy knockout.
Lando comes in and intimidates Pokemon that doesn't care about it. I think Brian takes game 1 pretty clean.
Yeah, because with Landorus, you can easily just King Shield and Spore into it. Feeney waking up could be a bit, shaky if it decides.
Muddy water into an accuracy drop. The accuracy drop then prevents the Amoonguss from sporing the Lando, then letting it Earthquake another time. That would be the out, I think.
But the thing is, you can't lock into Earthquake if you're Abdul here because you still have Brian still has Immense in the back.
Right.
So even if he locks himself into Rock Slide, even that's not going to be doing a lot of damage. And Abdul's just going to click the forfeit button, seeing that Landorus is going to be doing anything with Tabu Finney asleep. There really wasn't an out there for him, but pretty dominant victory for Brian in game 1 there.
I'm not necessarily sure what adjustments I think I would be expecting to see if I was Abdul. I saw we see that he has his own Charizard, which I might consider to bring if I were him. Both Charizard forms do a lot of damage to Brian's side of the field, though Brian's Azumarill is a pretty good response if it's a Zard X most of the time. But looking at it, right, I know there's a Heatran on Brian's side of the field, but everything else seems to take a lot of damage from the Zards.
Yeah, Charizard is a little bit of a shaky pick, maybe, because of, Salamence can outspeed it, intimidate it, and also you have the potential Heatran. But now, since Abdul saw that Brian wasn't bringing Heatran, he might be a little bit more, willing to bring...
Excuse me, everybody.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You might be a little bit more willing to bring Zard, considering you saw Brian's strategy the first game.
Right.
He might go with something very similar, considering he did take game 1. So we might see some adjustments here from Abdul. I'm really curious to see if Kartana comes again, because we saw that a lot of Brian's team took Leaf Blades for days.
Yeah, both of them picked their leads pretty quickly. If we remember Brian's team, right, is Heatran, Salamence, Amoonguss, and Aegislash, all of which absolutely do not care about Kartana.
There's a Coco Mence lead. It's very similar to game 1.
Yeah,
actually.
Abdul opts to leave the Manabus in the back, choosing to prioritize his Tapu Fini, probably thinking that he can just Rock Slide Moonblast the days away for a while. Abdul's biggest hurdle is to just get enough damage on anything this game. Nothing seems particularly strong on his side of the field, and Brian has defensive threats for everything Abdul has.
Yeah, the Landorus here kind of has to make a decision here. It's going to see whether it's basically whoever Abdul thinks is the bigger threat. The specs on Coco does make Feeney's position a little bit more scary.
Especially when Lando to switch in to eat an electric move.
Yeah, so Brian's going to have to either call an Earthquake or a potential Rock Slide.
But notice that the Lando's at -1, and it takes very little defensive investment to make it so Tapu Koko fails to take a feint to a -1 Adamant Earthquake. So Brian might not even be that interested in the fact that Lando's on the field, might not be that worried about it, might just go, hey, I have a free electric move into that Tapu Fini slot, and I'm going to take it. I don't care.
Yeah, with the specs, that'll definitely be a lot of damage on Fini regardless of the terrain. But this
possibly Noko, even without the
depending on the Fini's build. But he's going to switch out Fini here. He's going to go into Mana Buzz. Okay, so he's going to get the Misty Seed here. But as we saw in game 1, that Thunderbolt is an easy two-shot on that Mana Buzz, even with the Misty Seed boost.
Yeah. Salamence goes for the Mega Evolution, no longer having the Intimidate in case Landorus switches out. Or so now Earthquakes will reliably Oko Tapu Koko, but he did choose to go for the Earthquake, brought a Mana Buzz to take no damage from it. We'll see if Brian's Coco's trained to live a -1 Adamant Earthquake, and it is trained with room to spare. People coming into the Mana Buzz doing about 60% with the Seed. Frustration coming through into that slot as well. Mana Buzz showing that it was able to take it.
And now we know that the crit from game 1 definitely mattered.
Unfortunately for
proof.
Mana Buzz, though, it's not really going to have a turn to move this game either, because it doesn't often carry Protect, and both Pokemon on Brian's side of the field are faster and can knock it out this turn. Salamence is facing absolutely no pressure because Landorus is locked in the Earthquake. Coca might need to switch out to something which will take an Earthquake, which is not something Brian really wants to happen. But if it's the Amoonguss, for example, he'll probably be a very happy switch into Amoonguss, Frustration, and Mana Buzz. We see Lando switch out on the dual side of the field for Draka Cacalfao.
Yeah, that is Charizard.
Okay, Draka Cacalfao is in the building.
The non-specified Zard form.
Yeah, Mana Buzz takes the Frustration not very well and gets knocked out. Amoonguss comes in for Brian like we thought, probably thinking he'd have to take an Earthquake, but since Zard is in, Intimidate's gone, Lando might come straight back, and then we can see some Rock Slides and some Fire moves and some Pokemon not enjoying their time to shine, but
It's
Abdul
actually gonna be Feeney coming back out.
brings in the Feeney. The fact that there's a Feeney next to the Zard might hint that the Zard is an X as opposed to a Y, since we saw Feeney go for Muddy Water earlier.
Yeah.
And Abdul likely doesn't want to, and
There
X
it
is
is.
confirmed, yeah.
So we got Zard X here. The question is whether Abdul is going to just decide to go for Dragon Dance, because his Dragon Dance here is, I don't want to say it's free, but Salamence is, okay, it's at -1, but
Yeah.
I mean,
So he does go for the
so
Dragon.
we're going to see a Dragon Dance from Brian's end.
Flare Blitz would knock out the Amoonguss
It would, yeah,
if
neutral.
it goes for it. But we see that Brian.
We're gonna see a
Dance as
double
well.
Dragon Dance.
Amoonguss went for the Rage Powder, so Tapu Fini's Moonblast or Muddy Water or whatever that was probably prioritizing for the Salamence is just going to go straight into the Amoonguss for about 14%. Made up the number, but it seems about right.
Seems pretty accurate.
Salamence is back to neutral, but Abdul still has Landorus in the back and bring in Landorus to put the Salamence back at -1, and then Abdul can prioritize taking out the Amoonguss. Since Misty Terrain is up, we probably don't have Dragon Claw on the Charizard X because he
we have
has
Feeney.
his own Feeney. So it's probably a different coverage move like Earthquake or like Thunder Punch or like Brick Break or something of that nature. If it's Thunder Punch, then even the Azumarill on Brian's side of the field isn't safe. It went for the Rage Powder, hoping to take damage much better this turn. Frustration does not come close to 2-0ing the Charizard, not even after the Flare Blitz recoil. Amoonguss
That's an
is
easy one-hit
sleep
KO.
tight. Sleep tight, my friend.
Yeah.
Lando comes in. No more Rage Powder redirecting the... Oh, is that in Frustration range? From the damage from before.
It might. I think Frustration did about 30%.
I think it's actually close.
Yeah, it could be very close, but Salamence now back at -1.
Right. Aegislash is Brian's last Pokemon, which is pretty good for him. But if Brian can get to a position in which he can somehow remove the Salamence, maybe with his Tapu Fini, he
Yeah.
can Earthquake through the Aegislash, he can Earthquake through the Tapu Koko, presuming that the Aegislash doesn't have Wide Guard. But it's Ghost Demon, we haven't seen Sub or anything of that nature. So Wide Guard is likely.
Yeah, but Brian still has yet to reveal Wide Guard, so he might not be.
This
Abdul
is
might not be
important.
scared.
Frustration comes through. It takes
It
out the
does take out
Zard.
the Charizard.
Earthquake knockoff coming in from the Lando onto the Aegislash for very little damage because Z-moves do not count as
And
items.
Here we go.
Yeah, Ghost Demon to the Lando, probably for the knockout. It's a Scarf Lando, and that's an Aegislash.
Yeah, Aegislash gonna be doing big damage to the Scarflanders.
Mandibuzz not doing anything for Abdul in either of these games is a big deal because Mandibuzz was his primary response defensively to Aegislash.
Yeah, and it was really good at dealing with Amoonguss, but Amoonguss didn't really get to do much here either, besides redirect a Moonblast.
But that was a big deal because that
was,
Moonblast
yeah.
going into the Salamence would have put it into Rock Slide range had it eaten it. Never-ending Nightmare takes out the Lando with a crit, but unlikely to matter. Mono Fini versus the world against the Specs Coco. It looks like Brian is one of our first finalists.
Yeah, it was a really good game there by Brian. Definitely taking out the Mandibuzz was important because it kind of just let Amoonguss just do whatever it wanted, and also letting the Landorus stay around. Like it was a very tricky game for Abdul to play with Landorus because you have the threat of Wide Guard. You could Earthquake and Rock Slide was a pretty tricky game to maneuver around.
Right.
And Charizard, Charizard X. Had to take all that recoil from Flare Blitz, which put it in range of 2 -1 frustrations. Right. And even with the nerf to Aerialate, Salamence still does a lot of damage at -1.
Salamence is still a very strong Pokemon. The issue for Abdul is that his Pokemon didn't do enough initial damage to deal with Brian's threats because Brian's threats did
threats.
damage.
They were
We
indeed
noticed
threats.
that Abdul chose to use a defensive Z move, whereas Brian chose to use Ghost DMC Aegislash off a base 150 special attack Pokemon. Brian's Dragon Dancing
gonna
for
style
some
up
reason,
here. Yeah, I
but
don't know
he
what he's
knows
doing
he
here.
knows he's a Specs T-Bolt in the back from a Coco with Electric Terrain.
Yeah,
Moonblast
so-
comes in, takes out the Salamence. Almost.
It lived.
Okay. That's fine. Shadow Ball comes into the Feedy.
Yeah, that should be
doing
enough
like
chip damage
40%.
for neutral return to pick
And
up
then
the knockout.
I don't think Frustration will knock it out, but it really doesn't matter.
So Salamence is back at neutral. So this actually
The bigger thing that's very interesting to note is that Brian, looking at Brian's floor, right? Specs Coco, Aegislash, Dragon Dance Salamence, minor defensive backbone in Amoonguss, versus Abdul, who chose entirely defensive threats, basically. In Mandibuzz, he had Scarf Lando, which we know is an offensive Pokemon, but it doesn't do that much damage. Tapu Fini is not a big damage dealer.
Nice crit.
And we see Zardex on the screen, which is supposed to set up here. It's just Brian just had more pressure, and he was able to ride the pressure because his damage was more than Abdul's, and his typing was better than Abdul's. So it just, yeah. So thanks for that, everybody.
Yeah, it was really good game there.
Yeah,
by Brian.
that was a top 4 set. We'll see Brian back in the finals. Hopefully with a set that does. He just has fewer quad resists for the main damage dealer. Like, Abdul wanted to do damage with Kartana. He really did. His team was built around doing damage with Kartana. But how do you do it against an Amoonguss, an Aegislash, a Heatran, a Salamence, a Specs Coco, and a whatever the other thing was?
Yeah, the thing is, like, Abdul's team was
Good
at least
catch,
the
Kyle.
4. Yeah, the 4 that he brought were really passive, and his main damage dealer in Kartana. I mean, aside from Zard, like, you're not really doing a lot of damage, and Zard, it does a lot of damage to itself, and that
As we
late
saw,
game.
that came in super handy. I thought Zard was super free to just stay around and do whatever,
Dragon Dance,
but then it just ate a frustration.
And then ate another
Ate
one.
another one, and it left. That's what I have issues with Zardex. I played Eric in an MSS recently, and that was the issue that we had with Zardex. Such as Flare Blitz ends its own life too quickly. You can't stay around. Even if it's offensively threatening, Zardex as a sweeper is very difficult because it just kills itself.
Yeah, and then also with the plethora of Intimidate, like it's very hard for something like Zardex to get set up, especially in the face of something like Landorus. But like even at neutral, like depending on the Landorus variants, you can pick up Okos with Flare Blitz, but it's just
It takes 50% to
yeah,
yourself.
like it's a pretty threatening matchup for sure.
Regardless from that, very well played from both players. Abdul did his best to stay in the set, but Brian had too much team advantage and he knew what to do. We'll see him in the finals, and we'll see you all very soon.